Hey guys, welcome to this upload for you guys today. Now I want to talk about WWE SmackDown that happened last night. Now I told you this, and I'm telling you this for free. I do not watch it live because I can't be dealing with the advert music. Now I just want to say to everybody, you guys at home, thank you ever so much for making it 21 subscribers. I can't believe I'm getting 21 people want to watch me talk about professional wrestling in my bedroom at the age of 42. I cannot stress you enough. And it's night time somewhere in this world. I can't stress you enough. Now, for me, when I literally want to say this, that I look at SmackDown this week, it's alright show. Don't get me wrong. It's not as bad as we Raw as. I said last week SmackDown delivered. This somewhat delivered to an extent. You know what made it so much good, so much bad. But I just want to point this out. They started off the show with Aleister Bliss and Charlotte, and then obviously the likes of Tiffany Stratton. You don't need to have that sort of element to it. You know, fair enough. Tiffany Stratton, she's new, they're vintage. You know? Right, fair enough. We get the picture. We don't need Tiffany Stratton every fucking 24/7 doing shit like this. You know? She beat Charlotte Flair, fair enough, for WrestleMania, but enough is enough. But don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind Aleister Bliss versus Tiffany Stratton. That could be a lot better match than what we had at WrestleMania. Because at the end of the day, you could tell Charlotte Flair weren't happy working with the life of Tiffany anyway. Remember, she's always in it for herself. But this is a sort of face turn, which is very intriguing. You know? I've noticed this with WWE. They've changed their sort of pathways to a point where they've turned once we've watched it before, you've turned everyone that was heel, you've turned them face, and then the ones that are face, you've turned them heel. Which is a different dynamic, don't get me wrong, it gives us a different entity to what we're watching week in, week out. But I'm not being funny, but was that segment actually needed at the start to lead up towards the likes of Charlotte Charlotte Flair versus Giulia and the United States Women's Champion Savannah Vega? Why the hell are you putting a champion already into this? This is why I feel like your mid-card titles you do not know what to do with at the moment. You know, this is why it's a mess. You know, and give it some element, give it some surprise. And I just want to say, the one thing that really surprised me, that to say Gillian's only signed last week. Now she's in the Money in the Bank. I'm glad she's in the Money in the Bank because it's a fresh face to the Money in the Bank. Alexa Bliss shouldn't be in the Money in the Bank. You know, I feel like this should be pushed for someone to move to that next level. You don't need people that are already experienced in this match. You know, if you're not going to do your mid-card titles, do your Money in the Bank at least. You know, I miss the old days. But the one thing that really annoyed me the most, right, was Savannah Vega getting the pin over. It would have been far superior and more meaningful if Charlotte took the pin. You know? And my fucking allergies today. I do apologise if I'm a bit nasally, a bit croaky. But it just baffles me the way you think. Okay, Savannah Vega gets the pin. Okay, fair enough. But remember, she's a current champion. Charlotte isn't. You know, I'm not saying she's not relevant anymore, but don't get me wrong, it was an okay match. I was pretty impressed with it. Then we had the likes of Chris Sabin versus Tommaso Ciampa. I was literally enjoying this match, you know, because quite honestly, yeah, I'm not being biased or anything, but I do like these two. You know, and the one thing that baffles me, you bring back Candice LeRae. You bring her back. she randomly pops up because she's married to fucking Johnny Gargano. It's just, but it's like when I see the video segment that DIY actually did, that was actually proper indie sort of style, which I do love. You know, that's why I keep stressing about Natty should be doing that the way she's been doing recently. And then we had, you know, this is the one thing I do not get. Secret Hersive versus Michin and BFAB. Randomly made out the fly. You know, I was not too fussed about this match. You know, they sort of let themselves down. Big time with this. Right? Massively. Because, like I've said, this match ain't going to do any favours. This match isn't going to do anything towards the women's tag team division. Stop making random shitty matches that we don't need. And this is not me disrespecting the participants. This is the part where I get really angry and frustrated that you got great talent there, but you're putting a tag team match because they had a little squabble backstage. Big freaking warp. You know? As well, what I could take from this, we're literally Jacob Fatu and JC pretty much, they're not family. And obviously Solo's Codes being the peace holder. I'm not being funny, but no, I've stressed this. They don't get on in real life. I can't stress you enough how much these guys do not get on in real life. Even though, yes, there's tension between them. You wonder why. This is why I feel like this sort of way it's going to be, it's not going to work. Because you randomly... This is one thing, another thing I never got, right? A good tag team match, but a makeshift tag team match. You had tension between Jacob Fatu and JC, which they take on Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix. Why you do not know? The thing is, you've split the Usos up. You made his brother like a main picture, main standing point, but you don't know what to do with Jimmy. Why don't you do the parallel universe sort of thing? If they are so-called twins, build them up as twins. You know? Build him up as the next face of SmackDown, at least. The answer's right there. You know, do you want me to give you any more hints? I'm not like saying, please sir, give me some more of this bullshit. You know? But with the tension between Jacob Fatu and JC, how long will it last before them two are actually in a match? And how many people are going to fucking love that? But I'm not. I wouldn't mind the likes of fucking Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa for the United States Championship. You know, that'll make more sense. But all of a sudden you throw a curveball because of real life beef, you're putting it on the screen. And you can tell the tension on screen. So it baffles me why WWE think that was actually a good idea. Then we had R-Truth talk about John Cena. I love R-Truth, don't get me wrong. But it literally put me up. I'm not being funny. I look at this and I'm like, okay, Saturday night main events tonight, whoop. You know, I was literally... Why? R-Truth's already had his bit last week. You don't need to fucking say R-Truth's... Weirdly enough, right? We know John Cena hasn't got that many appearances left, and we're only in May. Why didn't Cena come out and speak? You know? Or... because of his countdown, obviously, of his appearances. Oh. You know, Don't get me wrong, I do respect our truth. I really, really do. Don't get the wrong end of the stick when I'm saying this. But I just want to say, there was no point because our truth had his speak last week. Why does it need another one this week? Because you look at the it was a backstage interview, right? You've already built this match up enough for a Saturday night main event that technically people do not care about. You know, who's he feuding? Who's going to be the next feud for John Cena? Tell me your thoughts down below, please do. Then we had a mismatch for the qualifiers, which is kind of bizarre because as soon as I saw this match, I was like, you literally, yeah, fair enough. The person that won it did take me by surprise, but end of the day, right? LA Knight won the triple threat Money in the Bank qualifier between Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now look at this, right? It was such a mismatched thing to the point where all that Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura were focusing on is them two facing off at each other. I was not too invested in this match, and that's not me disrespecting the participants. It's just this mismatch of styles. You've literally got the likes of Aleister Black. You've got the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, which you don't hardly do anything with him anyway, but you literally got him possibly in a future feud with the likes of Aleister Black. What you can tell by this match. Don't get me wrong, take my money on that one. But you've had nothing to it. You're focusing on each other, not the qualifier. You know? I did not like that match at all. You know? Don't get me wrong, LA Knight, yeah. No pun intended for his catchphrase. But it didn't add anything to Aleister Black's career so far. You know, Carmelo Hayes, he's been feuding with him. It would have been nice if you put the likes of Carmelo Hayes in that qualifier instead of having like LA Knight, because I think Carmelo Hayes has got a qualifier next week. You know, that would have had something to that match more than what we got. I was not too intrigued about, as you can tell. But for LA Knight to be in the Money in the Bank, that's not my phone going off. I'm okay with it, to be honest, because he doesn't have a championship. You know, I think he was in it last year. Everyone was expecting him to win it last year. You know, it's like a mixed bag, this episode of SmackDown, I swear. And then we look at the Street Profits versus Fraxiom for the tag team titles. Right? I want to say this. I did like the match. It's such a good match. But the ending was kind of a shock. The Wyatt Sicks are back. Now, it's a nice gesture, yeah, fine and dandy towards, obviously, the likes of Bray Wyatt's birthday. I miss Bray Wyatt. I was privileged to meet him when I did. I'm glad I did. But it was a nice tribute at the end, because I think no one was expecting it. Now, that's the WWE I know that will get people talking. I just want to say to every one of you guys is that it was a nice sentiment. But was it nicely placed at the end? Was it necessary to do that to the tag team titles match? Yes and no. You could have easily done it on one of the triple threats. I mean, the triple threat. You could have easily done it like that. Take out the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, take the likes of Aleister Black, at least something that you would literally think, okay, LA Knight's gone through because of that reason. Not because they want to help him, because they want to target him next. The one thing that's really, really confused the freaking hell out of me, all of a sudden you now confirm Worlds Collide is on YouTube. You built one match already. You put a 6-man tag team match on. But the one thing that really frustrates me with it, you made a big song and deal of how great this deal is, but yet you are sticking it on YouTube. And look at the way all of a sudden you did backstage segments week after week after week, and now you turning it into look like it's Lucha Underground. Think of your own goddamn ideas. You think people are going to be tuning into that product because, oh, you based it on Lucha Underground, people are going to be watching it? No. It's not that simple. You know, hopefully I'll be watching it myself, don't get me wrong. But it baffles me. You make how much of a song and deal and dance about this Worlds Collide and AAA deal, and yet you stick it on YouTube. Yeah, fair enough. It's more eyes on the product. Job well done. But you could have at least got you could have got Netflix to deal part of your deal. You know, it seems like you're tossing it aside to get people clapped eyes on this and thinking how great it's going to be. When it's not going to be that great. I'm being honest with you. Because you've not promoted it that well, all of a sudden you start promoting it now, and you're expecting, okay, fair enough. You're literally expecting. I'm on the 24th of May 2000, if you know what I mean. You're only starting to build this up on SmackDown. You're not building this up on Raw. You're not building this up on NXT. Considering who you got lined up for that very show that you say you got NXT. You didn't include TNA, I don't know why. But that's just my thoughts and opinions. But anyway, guys, so the Wyatt Sicks are back. Let's see how WWE book them now. If they're back all the time, or they're just doing it for that little segment. Only time will tell.